Well, good morning, everybody. We've got quite a few people already online, so we're going to go ahead and get started with a webinar today. And glad to have Morel McCrary from Ramtech PC Solutions with us. And we're going to talk about some IT problems, issues, things you might be going through, working from home, working remotely, things like that. Appreciate Morel. He's going to have a presentation for us, go over quite a few things, information we may need. And then we'll have a Q&A session afterwards, and we'll try to be done within an hour. I know everybody's got a lot of things to do, but I'm sure it'll be very informative. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Morel. Thanks, Morel.
Thanks, Gary. I appreciate it. Good morning, all of Henry County that's connected. I appreciate you guys for sure. You know, being in IT, we get asked a lot of questions on various different topics, but it looks like somebody's having some echo reverb. Just kind of mute your microphones, I guess, on your end. That should fix that. Sorry, that's the technician in me that wants to answer every question. But for the most part, we get a lot of questions from customers asking us, how do we work from home? How do we stay protected? How do we navigate this coronavirus pandemic, and what do we need to do? I attended a couple webinars, and I've kind of collected a lot of different information, and I wanted to present it to you guys today. So I'll just jump right in, and if you guys have questions, you can just definitely pop them in to the Q&A section, raise your hand, and we'll kind of come back around to those. All right. I went too fast there. So working securely and efficiently remotely. That's kind of what we're covering today. A little bit about me. I head up Ramtech PC Solutions. Business development is just a title I gave myself. It sounded better than owner and CEO and all that good stuff. But I stayed pretty much local, went to Clayton State, studied marketing and computer networking, and got several certifications and all that good stuff to go along with it. I don't like to toot my own horn a lot, so that's why I kind of see a basic background on me. Father of 2 kids and 2 dogs, and loving life, loving Henry County. So that's me in a nutshell. So what every employee must know about the vulnerabilities of working outside the workforce is what we're going to try to look in and dive into today. The landscape changes a little bit once you start working remotely, and that's your only means of doing your job, basically. So we're going to look at what that looks like for companies as well as end users. So while we're here, remote workers normally make up about 3.2% of the entire workforce. A lot of companies just don't allow for remote working at all. So we have seen now that the natural disasters and the coronavirus with this scenario is, we're in uncharted territories for sure. So how do we navigate that? So we definitely want to make sure you're talking to your IT provider, whoever that may be, about cybersecurity and how do we protect our family and protect our data that we're diving into every day. So we want to make sure we can maintain control of the company assets and why this is important and who's it happening to. We're going to go over the threat vectors and see how the bad guys get in. And then the end user's role, what you guys can do to protect yourself and your family, and your data. So maintaining control of company data assets. Why is this important? Who is it happening to? And we'll jump in. It's happening to small businesses. They're a prime target. So if we look at the smaller budgets that they tend to have for IT and IT staff, that makes them a prime target because they figure that the walls are weaker and they're easier targets to capitalize from. A lot of small businesses may have a computer savvy person that's managing their network, but they might not be fully skilled in doing some of the cybersecurity things and some of the brain shares, what I call it, with my team here. Just those things that keep knowledge fresh, that keeps information fresh. So you want to make sure that you talk to somebody that's in the market that does this on a day in, day out basis. They may have older computers that aren't working properly as well. They're not patched up properly. They're not, they're just not being taken care of, maintained. So that's important as well. When we jump into and we start looking at the most email and phishing campaigns, we're seeing a lot of those on the rise right now. Got a lot of coronavirus test kit emails that have been sent out and received. A lot of them are offering test kits now, and those are all scams. Just kind of I tell people, use common sense in this day and age, in this market where we are right now. You can kind of see that, hackers will try to infect a lot of people through phishing. And there's a video on phishing. It's about 4 minutes long. I'm not going to play it, but I'll put it in the links so you guys can kind of watch that on your own. It really does go into detail about how hackers will send out and create fake websites and copy your signatures and make it look authentic and then get people to click on it. And it's very detailed. It's really, really probably one of the best videos I've seen to explain the overall process of phishing. So without getting uber technical on that, who are the victims here? Pretty much it's, the smaller business. We're 58%, so want to try to make sure you guys keep your data safe, keep your business thriving. Next up, dark web. It's another one that you want to be definitely looking at. I usually explain dark web as it's kind of like the credit monitoring. It's kind of like your LifeLock monitoring service that people subscribe to. A lot of people, a lot of us, we are on the surface level of the web. The Yahoo, the Bings, the CNNs, the Reddits. That's tend to where we float around. But with this whole concept of dark web, what that looks like is these hackers are trying to guess your passwords. They're looking at how you use your passwords as well. So self-included, up until about 2 years ago, I had a set password for every single thing. So all of my banking passwords matched, all of my Amazon and Walmart passwords matched, all of that stuff matched. And that's not the best approach when you talk about password management. And we quickly changed that years ago. So I'll try to dump into that a little bit later, but stolen credentials usually happen in the dark web. And basically what that video that I was telling you about, it shows is how they will compromise your passwords. They'll send out that email, collect all that data, and then sell off your credentials. They'll sell off your username, password, social security numbers, all that sold off in the dark web. And if I jump into it a little bit further, it takes about 6 months or so, 6.5 months or so, before that data shows up. And they have to say, yes, at Amazon, we were breached and here's the extent of the breach. So that response time could be, 6 months down the road before you find out. That's why dark web monitoring really does pay off in this case. Russian hackers will move the fastest, 19 minutes before they're reselling your information. So you kind of bring that in perspective and look at the big picture is, when they've got your data compromised, when they've got your username, your passwords compromised, it could be 6 months before whatever agency was compromised has to disclose that they were compromised. And then that's when you would find out to the public. So when you hear on the news that they're talking about, oh yeah, so-and-so, gosh, what was the last one? It was some health app, MyFitnessPal. MyFitnessPal was hacked. They were hacked probably 6 months before they had to alert the media. So it's kind of a tricky game there to play, especially if you have matching passwords in MyFitnessPal that you use for your banking accounts or for your Amazon accounts or your other accounts online. So definitely use some password stringency there, two-factor authentication there as well. We'll jump into the cybercrime and how that looks on the dark web. Even if your company has cybersecurity insurance, the downtime, the reputation hit, the branding of it, lost revenue, all that stuff, it's just a pain in the neck to deal with. The average cost was about $36,000 in 2019. And now when you look at the spin of cybercrime now, hackers spend about 6 months, like I said, and they're getting paid for that stuff. They're selling your information. So here's the price list that shows that phishing and cybercrime are lucrative. And I'll bring up the other one too. Kind of shows you that for somebody that's got a 750 plus credit score, they can get about 150 bucks on that. So if they are sending out, let's just say, 5,000 emails and 2,000 people respond, 2,000 times 150 to resell that is pretty good money. And that hacker probably never took off their hoodie. So let's look at the threat vectors. How do the bad guys get in? Phishing, ransomware, we see that a lot. Whether you're a small business or large business, it's all pertinent to everyone. You definitely want to make sure that you have your machines patched up, you've got your antivirus, you've got strong passwords using a password managing tool. You want to make sure you have all these things in place. This is the video I'm going to skip, by the way. So your role, what do you need to do to protect your family and your employer? Why, cybercrime is exploding right now. Understanding who the targets, how they do it, and what we can do to help prevent it. We have a checklist that I'll provide for you guys also. This checklist pretty much is the nuts and bolts of what it takes to make sure that you have a safe working environment for this remote workforce thing that we're facing right now. So you want to look at your office setup. Before you start unplugging things and taking it home, take a picture. We do that a lot here at Ramtech. Take pictures of it so you know what it looks like when you get it home, how it should look. Be sure to bring a power strip, surge protector if you don't have one, or battery backup. A lot of people have the battery backup center in their desk. That's a good thing to bring home too. And you want to make sure you clean it. And this is antibacterial wipes. I wouldn't recommend getting a Clorox wipe and wiping it down if you can find Clorox wipes. But I would definitely make sure that you wipe it down with some type of disinfectant to make sure that you're not transporting germs back and forth. And then pay attention to your background. Here, my background is a picture of me and a white wall. So pay attention to your background. Make sure you're not exposing, too much of your home that you don't want other people to see. And then, dress for success. Dress like you're going to work. Consider each day like a work day. Installing your updates. So here's a quick tip that I will share with you guys. If you have Windows machines or even Macs, you can do updates as well. This is something we take care of for all of our managed customers, so they don't have to worry about the Windows updates and all that stuff. We do all that for them, but making sure that you talk with your IT provider to see if there's any updates you should be concerned with, or if you have questions on it, these are the ways to do it. You can check for these updates on your own as well in all your different applications. Make sure your antivirus and malware are up to date. That's also a good one. Recommend having a paid subscription. We use WebRoot like you see here, and we monitor for updates constantly on that. So that's another thing you should also check to see if your program is up to date. You can also check if you have Windows 10, the PC side of the fence. You can go to the Windows Security and hit the Windows button on the keyboard and type in Windows Security and it'll pop right up for you. Another key tool that you guys can do too is if you have, software that you haven't used in a while, and it always, shows the date and time it was installed, right? Like you see on the screen here. Just make sure you go in and remove some of that software that you're not using, just in case it's not getting updated. You just want to make sure that, you're using the right software on your machine to keep it safe. And always ask your IT person if you need help there. Connecting to a company VPN. This is a question we have gotten a lot over the past 2 weeks. What is a VPN? It's a virtual private network connection that keeps a secure tunnel from your computer wherever you are to the office setup. You definitely want to make sure that your company has a VPN and a VPN policy. If not, definitely keep a secure connection to your office and your data. That's one thing that you can do, and I think a lot of IT guys now can remote in even to your home computer and set that up for you. So definitely make sure your VPN is set up and tested. If your company has a VPN, go ahead and get instructions on how to do that and set that up. If not, call the IT company, get them to help you with it. Test it, well before you decide to send everybody to work from home. Test it and make sure it works on one person before you send everybody home, and then it doesn't work for anybody. So definitely test it beforehand. I had a customer yesterday, I helped with that too. Just, take one machine home, let's test it out, make sure it works properly, then we can send everybody home. One of those scenarios. All right, this is the Wi-Fi piece. So I'm always, if you guys have ever heard me talk before, I'm always skeptical about public Wi-Fis. I never jump on like your Publix Wi-Fi or your Starbucks Wi-Fi. I never do that. I always use a hotspot of my own, or you make my phone into a hotspot, only for that reason. But definitely you want to make sure that you're not automatically connecting to those wirelesses that you don't know or you don't trust. You never know what they're looking for. And if you're using a VPN tunnel to get into your work, or what all that looks like, when you break all the nuts and bolts down, you want to be on a connection that you control. So you can go into it and you can tell it how to forget that network and all that good stuff. If you get stuck on it, give us a call. We can help you with that. If you're working from home, you can separate your network if you know how to. We have 3 different networks at my home, so it makes it kind of easy. I give the kids their own network, the utilities their own network, and then I have a personal network that I use for my work computer. Of course, that's a little extreme because, I'm an IT guy. Just make sure that, you guys are using your best effort there to connect and keep your work computer separate from other devices on your network. Again, if you need help, ask IT. They most likely can help you set that up. Lock your computer when you're not in use, especially in remote areas like Starbucks and all those other public spaces. If you have children or spouses around, make sure you lock it so that nothing accidentally gets sent. That's always, we've seen that happen a time or two, or a file accidentally gets deleted from the shared drive. We've seen that happen several times when folks are working from home. Just make sure you try to keep it, private as possible. Create a separate user profile. So this is great for families that have one computer at home and they don't have the work computer that they can take home, where it's, one of those type scenarios. You just create a separate profile for those guys. So that way the parents have their profile and the kids have their profile, and it kind of does a good job of splitting that up on Windows 10, even on the Mac side of the fence too, for my Mac people. That does a really good job of splitting up the roles on the computer, so you don't have everybody in the same pool using the same data, basically. And here we go. I mentioned we touch on passwords. If you guys are using the Chrome passwords, I'm telling you, if I sat down behind your computer, I can see every password that you have saved in Chrome. I'm just letting you know that now. We recommend using a password manager of some sort, LastPass, Password Boss, 1Password, Keeper MSP. Any of those are good options. If you need help there, just let us know that too. We can answer those questions. Don't allow your browsers to save those passwords either, guys. It's all saved to your computer in raw text data. I can sit down and within 5 to 10 minutes have all your passwords for all your bank accounts, all your Amazon accounts, all that good stuff. And that's not, what you want to do. Never save your passwords in an Excel file. Funny story is we had a customer that hired us, and we went in and they had the password stuck on the bottom of their keyboard or on a document on their desktop that said passwords. I mean, it was just clear that password management was an issue there first off. So definitely, if you're going to do that, use Mom's chicken soup recipe. Nobody's going to go looking for that unless they really just want to make some chicken soup, or save it somewhere that's arbitrary that only you can find it. I've also seen people save their passwords in their contacts. That's not a good idea either. If your contacts sync with your phone, you definitely want to make sure there's some separation there. DNS filter. DNS filter is kind of it's hard to explain, but basically what it is it's a phone book that looks for good and bad websites, and it alerts you to where the website is reputable or not. We have DNS services here that we set up. It's really great for a remote workforce. If you don't know what environment you are sending your folks home in with their laptops to work, that DNS filter gives you kind of like a soft firewall in most cases to block out some of the bad stuff that they may have access to at home. but not access to in your office. So when you're in your office, you can kind of protect the data and what's coming in, what's going out with a firewall. But when they go to work from home, those firewalls stay at work. They don't travel with them in most cases. But, you know, in this case, a DNS service like this will help block some of that stuff out so they can't access it. It's really good for remote workers too that travel from hotel to hotel. We use that a lot in that case as well. Soft phones. We have soft phones here. So this is vital, making sure that those soft phone softwares get up to date as well. A lot of carriers don't mention it, but if your carrier, if you're on a voice over IP system and the carrier doesn't encrypt what they call the packets, then all of the call data can be downloaded and played back like a recorded phone call. It's really kind of spooky on that regard to see what kind of data can be transmitted. So for all your healthcare folks that are using voice over IP, make sure you have whatever HIPAA coverage they need there, because that encrypts that data for you. You don't want to be, you know, talking on the phone about, or talking on the phone to a patient even, and sharing information that might be private and it'd be compromised in that regard. So making sure you have the software up to date will kind of help prevent some of that. Making sure you have secure VoIP channels will help prevent some of that as well. The other thing too, I'm gonna jump back to that slide. I mentioned call quality is affected by your upload and download speeds. If you have good speed at home, usually you'll have a good outcome as long as you're not streaming Netflix at the same time you're trying to do a voice over IP call, you'll have decent call quality. Uninstalling Google Chrome extensions. So we use extensions a lot here. Just make sure if you're not using them, you remove them. I like Google Chrome. I'm a Google Chrome fanatic. I like all of the bells and whistles and plugins you can do. It makes things in life really simple and cool. I like that. Just make sure that if you have something you haven't used in a while, just go ahead and turn it off, or if you go to it and it says it's not supported anymore, that you go ahead and remove it. It's just another door that you can close to kind of keep yourself safe. Yeah, and the next slide kind of segued into that. Google Chrome and Firefox, those are top browsers. They are available on PC and Mac, so you guys can set the preferences on which one you want to use as your default there. If you have questions on that, it's right there on the screen, or you can give us a call. Chrome is my default browser. Firefox is my number 2 go-to. I don't trust Internet Explorer. That's just me. But you guys, you know, make a smart decision there and don't save your passwords in any of the browsers. And think twice about what you click on. There's a lot going on right now with online scams with coronavirus, and you know, just making sure that you guys stay aware of what's going on and what's true. Stay with sources and websites that you know. I know a lot of folks will quick to Google things and click on the first one at the top. Just kind of make sure you look over the domain. Like that first one reads marketwatch.com. Just make sure you kind of look at the domain and make sure it's not going to somewhere that's irrelevant or trying to trick you into something. That's good to know as well with any email or anything like that as well. Hackers know people aren't protected by their office firewall, just like I mentioned earlier. So they're looking for ways to compromise, you know, businesses right now, which is sad but true. And don't be click happy. This is my favorite one. Office 365, which is, you know, that's what we use here. There's also G Suite with Google. They have some built-in filters that can kind of keep you guys safe from malicious emails. We use an additional filter service with Barracuda to filter out attachments and malicious links and all that stuff in email. DNS filtering is also a part of that feature set that they offer. It's really important too that you make sure that you know what you're clicking on and who it's sent from. You can check and make sure if it looks to be suspicious, it most likely is. A lot of folks will have the that report message option right there. You can tell it to report that message if it's in Outlook, and it should go ahead and put it in your spam and go ahead and report it back to Microsoft or whoever the carrier is. And this is one other piece to keep your inbox clean and safe from people that are trying to capitalize on this time. If you notice some slowdowns in your computer, which we have seen, you know, just make sure you get it checked out. It could be just the internet or an update that's running in the background. We see that happen from time to time. Just make sure you're kind of staying tuned in to what's going on with your hardware while you're working from home. Data backup. So this is kind of important. We back up data all the time. So a lot of our customers have cloud storage with us. So they have the cloud applications right on their computers. They can dump their data into there and it's stored in the cloud and backed up. Or you can have a local backup on your computer, and that will back up as well. If you have questions on that, just let us know too. But backing up your computers and files, especially now when you're not in the office, protected behind the firewall and the server and all that good stuff, just make sure that you have a backup copy of your data. All right. I think we reached the end there, Gary. It kind of went through really, really fast. I have this PDF that I can drop off with you guys as well, but I think I'll turn it back over to Gary and we can kind of open it up for questions.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a few questions already. We've got one on chat about somebody recently had a friend had Facebook ransomed, and is that common? Is that something you've heard of before?
I haven't seen too many of those cases with Facebook ransoms. I would say they probably are the 1 in a million kind of scenario there. I have seen a lot of people's Facebooks become compromised. I haven't heard of the ransom side of the fence where they try to sell you your Facebook access back, although I wouldn't put it past any particular hackers or anything like that.
All right. Can you see the Q&A screen, Morel? Do you want to go through those or?
Yeah, sure.
All right. And if anybody has any other questions, just feel free to go ahead and start typing those in and we'll get to as many of them as we can.
Looks like Tammy Wiggins is asking, is it true that Macs are less likely to be vulnerable to phishing and other attacks or threats? The short answer is yes and no. We have seen Macs with viruses. They are less common. So I will put that out there as a statement. I myself use a Mac here at the office. And a lot of people just have a preference of Mac or PC, but I like them both. I think they work well if you keep them both protected. However, I still have antivirus installed on my Mac and keep it just as protected as any other computer I've ever used. I will say though, that they are less common to get viruses.
All right.
How do you get multiple networks at home? Multiple networks at home can be managed in a couple different ways. You can set up, if you have a router, meaning so in this area, Henry County is notorious for having AT&T, Comcast, and Charter Spectrum. I know you can't necessarily set up multiple networks if you just have their modem, but if you have like their modem router combo kind of device, you can set up different networks there. And you can achieve that true separation that I mentioned earlier.
All right. Tammy had another one. Is it necessary for a relatively small business or nonprofit to invest in a VPN when resources are limited?
There's many options around VPN that you can do. OpenVPN has several options. There's plenty of options that we can look at that are either low cost or no cost. In that scenario though, I would probably look at, maybe transitioning to a Google Drive or a Dropbox or something in that scenario to share data with someone. I think that Google Drive has some type of nonprofit offering that, they could probably take advantage of.
All right, great. Let's see, Eleanor wants to know, would you recommend that passwords be kept on the cloud?
Passwords kept in the cloud. So we use LastPass here as a company, and that data is residing in the cloud. I have access to it from any device. Am I spooked out that one day it could crash? Yes. However, to me, I feel safe because they show me that it's encrypted. I have multi-factor authentication turned on. I have a lot of different pieces turned on, even with my team where I get alerts if they're accessing their LastPass account outside of the office. So you can get a lot of granular security pieces that give you some peace of mind about that. However, yeah, I mean, we all have to be skeptical of the cloud. One day it will rain.
All right. Let's see. Jerry, want to know, are you running board meetings remote? What are better software recommendations for this purpose? We actually had the chamber board meeting this morning, and we used the Zoom platform also. This is what we're using for the webinar. You can do a Zoom meeting, and then you can have everybody, you'll get a, just a link to log in like we did this. And everybody was on there this morning, went through, and it worked really well. So I'm sure there's other ones out there as well. We did use Zoom meeting this morning. I think there's a free platform. We did use one that was still relatively low cost. It's a monthly fee. So there's other ones out there, but Zoom works really well.
I will add to that to say that Zoom, I think before all this broke out, was free for 45-minute video or 45-minute sessions, and they were limited to the certain number of people that could connect to a remote call or video call. So I would definitely check in to see if they have an offering that is still free. That way you can kind of jump on the bandwagon, so to speak, and take advantage of the free support that they have.
All right, sounds good. Let's see. We had another one on chat. How do you get multiple networks at home or commercial retail space? I think you may have already covered that.
Yeah, I kind of touched on it. Well, with how do you get multiple networks at home or commercial retail space? In the commercial retail space, it's easier if you have a firewall at the retail space side of the fence. You can set up multiple networks there. We have, I think, Gary, what, 3 or 4 networks that you saw this morning when you got in?
Yes, at least.
They're all separate and they all have a certain purpose. We practice that same thing, with all of the networks we set up. We usually set up a guest network for guests, and we isolate that traffic to only that particular device that is visiting with you. And then we have our private corporate network that we use for all of our internal, staff and hardware. At home, it's a little bit trickier. I know there's a lot of Netgear routers and Cisco routers and all that, those home routers that you can purchase. They too support multiple networks. Just like I mentioned earlier, I've got 3 networks at home that kind of separate all the data traffic from the kids and, the utilities around the house.
All right. Well, right now we don't have any more open questions. So let me just say at this point, I know this is, like Morel mentioned, this is uncharted territory that we're going through right now with everything. At the Chamber, we're going to try to help businesses navigate this as much as possible and do our best to try to help you with information. We're going to do some more of these webinars. We've got some topics in mind already, but if anybody has anything that they need some help with, they want questions answered, feel free to email me anytime. We're looking for ideas for doing some of these as well. If you think of some other questions that we didn't cover today, just email us. I'll get you answers. I'll forward them on to Morel, and if it's about IT, and we'll get you answers to anything that you're looking for the best that we can. Of course, I know there'll be some questions that we won't have answers to or won't know exactly what we're going to do or how we're going to do it. We're putting out a lot of information. If you haven't seen, we do have a new website that's just dealing with the coronavirus, and it is togetherforhenry.com. So make sure and check that out. We're putting resources on there. The new resolutions that the cities and counties are putting out, we'll have copies of those out there as well. And just check your email out. I know there's a lot of questions about the small business administration loans. I sent an email out yesterday with a link to a teleconference call at 12 o'clock with Congressman Drew Ferguson, and he has a representative from the SBA that's going to be on that. They asked to email questions before midnight last night, but I would still, even if you haven't submitted a question, just if you have an opportunity, tune into that call. I'm sure they'll answer a lot of the questions about the loans that are coming out. And I know with the stimulus package they're working on federally, there'll be a lot of changes and a lot of questions about that as well. So we'll keep you up to date as much as we can. And again, if you have any questions, you need anything from us, you want us to get information out about how your business is changing or doing things differently, just send us that and we'll continue to get that information out as well. Didn't take up quite as much time as I thought, but that's a good thing. Hopefully we answered the questions you had right now. Morel, anything else before we end this webinar?
Yeah, I added the phishing video, how it works, in the chat to all the panelists or all the attendees, as well as the free network assessment that they can sign up for on our website if they need help there. I also have a PDF that I can send out to you guys. Just make sure, Gary, I'll probably leave it with you, and if you get response on that, anybody that wants that 18-point checklist to make sure that they have things in order at home, they will have that at their fingertips.
Absolutely. And this is also recorded, so if you want to go back and review it, if you know somebody that wasn't able to tune into this, we'll have the recording out there for people to look at as well.
Let me reshare that. There you go. Now attendees should be able to see it.
Okay. All right, great. Well, thank you so much. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and look for some information about future webinars that we'll be doing here in the next few weeks.
Thanks, Gary. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Five slides.